to revenue through reputation. Although, you know what? It's probably not going to be the revenue through reputation show much longer. I've been doing a lot of work on this. I've been looking a lot at what is going on with content, and we're going to talk about that today. So, if you're joining us on the podcast, if you're joining me on the podcast today, thank you so much. I appreciate it. If you like what you hear, love the reviews, give me a review, help us get in front of more people. If you really like what you hear, it's always easy just to screen capture it, text it to somebody, say, hey, you should go listen to this guy. I'd appreciate that. And then, of course, we have two other audiences, if you will. We've got the live audiences. We're going live on LinkedIn and YouTube, and I think even to Facebook. I don't log into Facebook very often anymore, but I think we go live over there as well. And then, of course, you might be watching on LinkedIn or YouTube or anywhere else on the recording. Either way, if you put comments in, you have questions, you have comments, you think I'm crazy, you think I'm smart, anything in between, I'll take it. Give me the comment. And if you're doing it while we're live, then I'll see it, and I can always bring it up on screen and answer your questions or respond to your comments. So, hey, today's going to be interesting. I think today is a defining moment. The past several weeks have been defining moments for me. Even with our customers for Fist Bump and our group coaching, I've actually taken the last couple months off because I wanted to go do more research. I find, and I think you all may find this too, is that we're in a pivotal transition time. AI, generative AI, is helping lots of companies create more content. And so that means all of us are engaging, well, I guess the right word might be experiencing more content. We're getting more emails are being sent. We're getting more content in our news feeds. And there's just overall a lot more content coming out there. Butch, thank you. I appreciate that. He says, I think you were crazy and smart. Yeah, sometimes those go hand in hand. But yeah, thanks for that, Butch. Thanks for being here. Here's what I see happening with content. If your content isn't making people feel something, you're basically invisible. I had a comment from Jordan Ring, and I don't know Jordan. He was a second connection at the time. We connected afterwards. So if you go look him up as a connection of mine, you'll see that we're connected now. But I did a video on this, and I've been sharing like, hey, this is what I'm seeing. This is what's going on. This is what I'm trying to figure out. But he commented on a post, and he said, I stop my scroll when I come across people that make me feel something. Brandon Lee, he says, usually this is content that is about them, their unpopular opinions, or a unique angle on something familiar. I think it's good for all of us to really hear that and then think about your own engagement with content. Because we're all like our buyers or the people that we want. Generally, what happens is we create content, we post it, and then we're like, oh, why isn't how come I didn't anybody commenting on it? Or how come nobody engaged with it? But we don't stop and think, it's such a great expression, right? Put yourself in other people's shoes. Would you have stopped to pay attention to this content if you saw it in your newsfeed? Ask yourself that. When you're producing content. Overall, if our content isn't making somebody feel something, then we're invisible, and invisible companies don't grow, and invisible companies are not known which means when the calls are made or the emails are sent, or you spend the tens of $1,000s on a booth at a conference and you set it up and you got a bunch of people there and you got hotel bills and airline fees and food and everything, and you're waiting in your booth and people just walk by and don't want to meet with you, or you make the calls and they're not being returned, or you got the emails going out and very few, if any of them, are getting responded. Well, it means that they don't know you, that you've been invisible to them. So it all comes back to, we're not in a content game for awareness anymore. We're in an era of content for connection. And this is really important. 2014 content was about awareness, and it was safe, it was polished. It sounded like it went through the PR machine. Does this sound familiar? We help XYZ people in order to do ABC things so that they 1, 2, 3 accomplish 1, 2, 3. That's what so many people were taught. That's what so many people did. That was 2014 content. It was safe. It was polished. It sounded like the PR team vomited all over it. It sounded like the PR team got their hands all over it, and it was on brand. It was on message. And that type of content doesn't make you feel anything. So we're gonna talk today about why content needs to make you feel. We're going to talk about this term that I've started using called emotional resonance. Our content has to resonate emotionally in order for people to remember us. It has to resonate with them emotionally to stand out from the noise. It's about creating content that is different. I don't know any other way of saying that's very different than the norm. So we are going to talk about emotional resonance. We're going to talk about leader-led content and why it hits harder than anyone else. And I'm not opposed to anyone on the team creating content in this style. It's awesome. But from a company perspective, it's better when it's the leader. And then I'm going to talk about, I got this work in progress that I want to share with you all and get, hear what you guys think about it. It's the resonance to revenue framework. And it's a 3-step framework. It started out with 6 and then it went to 8 steps. I was like, oh, that's too many. And we finally got it down to these 3 steps that I think will make sense to everybody and make a big difference. And then we're going to talk a little bit about trust and what do we do with trust, and why is trust so important right now? I don't know I had a show a few weeks ago and I said that the most misunderstood word in B2B right now is trust. And our reason it's misunderstood is because we think if we just show up and we start saying who we are and what we do, that people are going to trust us. And there's so many people showing up saying who they are and what they do, that people just don't have time or the attention to trust us just because of that. So we have to be different, and that's where this emotional resonance comes in. And before I move to that, sorry, I've got my phone over here that's off, but still started ringing in my ears. Before we go into emotional resonance and how we create content that resonates, I want to read Jordan's comment one more time. And I want you to ask yourself, is this you? Are you like this? Think about when you're scrolling, what type of content actually captures your attention and makes you stop? So he says, I stop my scroll when I come across people that make me feel something. Usually this is content that is about them, their unpopular opinions. I think I have an unpopular opinion right now about emotionally connecting. Or a unique angle or something familiar. Okay, maybe I have a unique angle that's an unpopular opinion. I think, I'm going to admit something. I bought into the content realm of 2015, 2016. It started earlier. I like to say 2014. I think it started earlier than that. Let's say 2014 to 2025. In the late 90s, yes, I'm that old. In the late 90s, I started a company and we were creating content for veterinarians to grow their practices. And it was emotional content. We had a magazine, it was called Healthy Pet. And it was, we were based in LA at the time. And so we always had like a B to C to sometimes a D list celebrity on the cover with their pet. They tell a story about their love affair with their pet. And we had some information in there about healthcare and pet care. And we had some fun articles in there as well. But at the core of what it was emotional connection, right? They were giving something of value in the form of content, free, free magazine. This is the 90s, right? Where you used to have to go to the grocery store, Barnes and Noble, to get magazines and pay for them. So they were getting this gift of a magazine and content that made them feel good as a pet owner. And what we saw happen is it was immediately about a 50% increase in people who would call on the first reminder that they needed to bring Sparky in for another shot, which is a 50% increase from when they sent postcards to sending this magazine. It's a big deal. And what was going on here? Well, it was the psychology of it, right? They felt appreciated. They felt more connected. They felt to be a better pet owner, they needed to make sure they got the shot. A postcard just didn't do it. The postcard was just, hey, Sally, it's time to bring your dog, your pet name, whatever. It's time to bring Sparky in for a such and such vaccination. No emotion whatsoever. Give the magazine and the content is emotional. There's a 50% increase in the calls to schedule shots for Sparky and all the Sparkies that are out there. And then the early odds, we had sold that company, started another one called By Design Publishing, and we did the same thing with magazines. And we had home and decor magazines, we had home improvement, we had technology, even had a magazine called Swirl and Sip that was about wine and food. And we had lawyers and chiropractors and realtors and commercial real estate and all these other professional services that were using it. It was all personalized as their magazine. And they would send it every month or every other month or once a quarter, depending on what they wanted to do. And the magazine built emotional connection. So we would hear things like our customers would get a phone call and somebody would say, hey, I'm ready for your services. And our customers would be like, okay, great. What's your name? And what was happening is the person making the call had been getting, a magazine delivered to them every month, every quarter, every other month, whatever, for a little bit, for a certain amount of time. Maybe it had been years, maybe it had been months. But the recipient of it was like, I know you, right? They had this emotional connection to the person who was sending them the magazine because the content, the value of the gift, they felt like they knew the person who sent it. And so when they had a need to sell a home or see a chiropractor or for an attorney or an accountant or whatever it may have been, they knew who they were going to go to because they felt this connection, this emotional connection to that person. So we're going to talk about emotional resonance. We have to resonate emotionally through our content. Not only to stand out, but for the people we want to connect, we want to know, for them to feel like they know us. So I'm going to give you this story, and if you pay attention to my content, you've probably heard it before, so just humor me. And Juana and Butch and Reem, thank you so much. There are a ton of magazines out there, and they all lean into the, real story. Yep, you got it. And we were doing these as personalized magazines, coming from a specific business owner to a network of their prospective customers. But if you've been with me, if you followed my content at all, you've probably heard the story. But Chris Dunn, who's one of our customers, he's got a show that's called the Exhibitor's Toolkit. He works for a company called Blue Hive Exhibits. They create exhibits, booths for shows. And Chris tells a story about, we started working with him on content, and he started doing things like his weekly post that he uses hashtag Barton the dog. And he shares every week about doing his 5:30 in the morning walk with his dog, Barton. And sometimes it's a picture of the dog. Sometimes it's a picture of him and Barton. Sometimes it's a picture of what he's looking at. But what he's always doing is sharing what he's thinking about while he's on his walk. And sometimes it's work. Sometimes it's his family. But he's sharing what he's been observing, what he's thinking while he's on these walks. Now, let me unpack this. We're getting a glimpse into his personal life. A lot of people love dogs, so there's immediate emotional connection to the dog. But it's Chris being real. It's just him showing up in full Chrisness. Do you like that word, Chrisness? Fully Chris. He shows up fully Chris, and he's sharing kind of the real, the raw of what's going on in his head, what he's thinking, what he's observing in the industry, what he's feeling. And through this consistency, he sent a cold email out to a prospective customer. And the guy on the other end, who Chris had never met before, responded and said, "Hey, Chris, thanks for the email. Yeah, let's schedule a call. Get this. I feel like I already know you because of your content on LinkedIn." That's what we're going for. That's what we all need to go for. That's what we need to do, because emotional resonance is the difference between content that makes you feel like you're known, makes them feel like they know you. And I've been saying this for a while. I mean, our content, what people want is they want to feel like they really, really, really know you. My wife was sharing with me last night. There's an unfortunate story about a TikTok influencer whose child drowned in their pool, in their swimming pool at home. And it's obviously sad. It's heartbreaking. You never want to hear that happen to any child or any family. My wife does not know this woman personally, has never met her. But my wife was at home tearing up and praying over her family because of this tragedy in their lives. My wife feels like she knows her. Now, I know what a lot of people are going to say with that is, "Oh, well, that's a TikTok influencer. We're in business." It's the same. It's the same. We can't sit around in our B2B worlds and pretend that the content that's being created by influencers and the way people are engaging with influencers on their phones isn't going to influence the way our buyers want to engage or want to know us. So our reputation, them feeling connected to us, feeling like they know us, is more important now than ever. It's always been important. It's just that we did it mostly face-to-face. And there's still, by the way, I'm not opposed to face-to-face at all. I love face-to-face. I just believe that through digital, we can accelerate everything face-to-face. Through consistent of the right type of content that makes people on the other end feel something, the first time you meet somebody in real life, a lot of times it becomes a hug instead of a handshake. Why? Because they feel like they already know you. They feel like they already know you. I want to reemphasize this. When people feel like they already know us, they are more likely to return a call. They are more likely to respond to an email. They are more likely to walk into our booth. I mean, I've shared my story about my now really good friend, Natalie, who we were connections on LinkedIn for about a year, lived in the Atlanta area, We actually live really close to each other, but we never met face to face, and I never really engaged with her online either. But through my consistency of content and my shows and everything, when I'm at the airport, pounding an email to my team real quick before I go jump on a flight, I get this tap on my shoulder, and I look up, and it's Natalie, and she goes, "Brandon!" And I've told Natalie this too now, but at the time I'm like, "Hi." I had no idea who she was. It's like my memory was going like, who is this? And she's, and I stand up, she gives me a hug, and she's like, "Oh my gosh, I'm so glad to finally meet you." And we have this chat. And yes, eventually I'm like, "Oh, okay, Natalie, we're connected on LinkedIn." And I figured it out. But it's a good example of when we not only are consistent with with content, but it's not about just consistency. It's about content that helps them emotionally connect. They need to feel like they know us. They need to feel something. And generally, if they feel like they know us and they like us, well, that's going to accelerate all of our other outreach opportunities, all of our other outreach activities to our benefit. So when they feel like they know us, that creates conversations, and conversations, well, that's where opportunities come about. So, the consistency of it all made people say, "Oh, I see you all the time." But the style of content, and that's really the point of today. You're probably creating enough content, but if you're not getting the conversations you want, it means your content isn't building trust, which means your content isn't helping them feel like they know you. So the resonance, when they resonate with it, is when they say, "I feel like I already know you." And that moment when they feel like they know you, I mean, that changes everything. That's Chris's prospect responding with, "I feel like I already know you. Yes, let's get on a call." That's a conversation. And we all know conversations lead to opportunities. Natalie tapping me on the shoulder, that was a conversation that led to an opportunity. And if I wasn't so consistent with my content, and I believe my content wasn't so human and real, and kind of what you see is what you get, I didn't hide behind my title and just say like our unique value proposition and all that, would Natalie have stopped on the way to her flight to say hi to me if she didn't feel more of a connection, like, "Oh, I know this guy. Like, it's worth my time to stop and say hello and introduce myself," versus, "Oh, there's another person who just sells stuff and don't want to bother talking to them." So that's why emotional resonance is so important. And guys, I'm going to go out on the limb and say this, like, this is the next era of content marketing. This is the difference between creating a bunch of content and still being frustrated, and creating content and going, "Oh my gosh, this is working." We have to create content that they feel gets to know us. Now, it's not easy. And I think when it's this type of content, it really needs to come from leaders. So the next part I'm going to say is, why is leader-led content so important? Well, it hits harder. It's got a much better effect, but it's hard. So, I used to say that content from leaders needed to be about what they've lived and what they've learned, like sharing their journey. And I think now I'm ready. I need to revise that. There's an and in there. It's what they've lived and learned, share their experiences, the good, the bad, the hard, the challenging, the excellent, the joyful. We got to share that, not just look at our product, look at our service. No, it's got to be, hey, this, like right now we're all experiencing economic headwinds. What I enjoy is sharing with people, hey, we've been through economic headwinds before. Here's the mistakes I made in 2009 when the recession was coming. I freaked out. These are the mistakes that I made. But this is what I've learned, and this is what I'm doing differently this time. That's the type of content that people go, wow, thank you. Not take a look at my product. Here's my service. Here's how we're different than them. That makes sense. That's a different content. So I used to say, leaders, we need to get the information out of your head of things that you lived and learned. But I want to go a little bit further now, and it's not just what you lived and learned, but what are you learning and living right now in real time. Peter Lasowski has become a friend of mine through LinkedIn, and we had a call. And one of the things that Peter keeps saying in his content, which is great, I love it, is you need to invite people into your daily journey. And what does that mean? It's like we're sharing authentically, like what's going on with you? Like, what are you thinking? What are you feeling? What are you learning? What are you struggling with? What are you doing? That's the type of content that people are engaging with. And that's the type of content that makes you stand out from the noise. And that's the type of content that gets people go, I feel like I know you. Let's schedule a call. So if you're listening to this and you're struggling with not getting enough conversations, you're not getting enough at-bats, you're frustrated with hey, we're making 300, 400, 500 calls and nobody's calling us back and our emails aren't getting responses. This is why. It's not that you're not producing enough content. It's your content is not creating emotional resonance. And if it doesn't resonate emotionally, it goes in one ear, out the other, doesn't leave a seed, doesn't lay an egg, doesn't do anything. There's no sign of it because it looks, smells, tastes, sounds like everyone else's content. And our human hearts don't care. Our human hearts are going to care. They're going to connect and going to remember someone's emotional journey, their story. That's what we remember. So let's take a look at this. What else do we have here? Yeah. When a sales rep is doing content like this, I think it's good. When a leader does it, it's great. And here's why. Right, wrong, or indifferent, people care what leaders think, say, and do. And I like to share this example. Anyone that's in sales or anyone in a company that you've had a really important meeting and you thought, oh, if I could just get the CEO to come join me in this meeting. Generally, why do we want to do that? Is like, well, the CEO's presence brings a lot of weight. The CEO's presence says something. Like, this is so important to us as a company that the CEO took time out of their busy schedule to join this meeting. And if you're HR and you're interviewing or recruiting somebody who you really, really want, well, you might go, hey, CEO, can you come over and join me? Again, why? Because the CEO's presence means something. It says something. And so that's the same reason why leaders really need to be creating leader-led content. And if you really want it to be powerful and valuable and create more conversations and grow the brand and grow reputation and really help the business in the best way, then leaders need to share this emotionally resonant type of content. And it's scary, man. I'm just gonna pause right now and go, man, I get it. Like, here's the thing that I've done. And I think I'm learning finally. I thought I've been creating content like this. I've been creating content on LinkedIn basically every day for almost 3 years. And I thought I was being vulnerable. But if I'm honest, what I'm learning is I've been vulnerable within a safe space. Now, I'm not saying everybody, you go full open Komodo and you share all the dirty laundry. That's not what I'm saying. But you got to share what you're going through, what you're learning, what you're experiencing. That type of content's going to get engagement versus, let me tell you more about our product, our service. I love that there's a lot of people out there talking about storytelling, but it's not just the story, it's the type of stories. Because everything's moving so quickly, and there's so many people doing it. There's so many people using Gen AI that they can go to ChatGPT and say, I need content and it needs to have a story. So people are telling stories and creating content, but there's no substitute for us telling our own stories and digging deeper and being more vulnerable and being real. Because what emotional resonance means in content that creates trust, because really that's what it is. I don't know if I've said this yet. We're no longer in a content era, we're in a trust era. And this is really important. When I first got into business, and for a lot of us, it's been this way for most of our career, we would cold call or cold email or cold door knock and ask for meetings. And usually the topic of what we do or the name of our company could more often get us a yes. And the reason it happened is people, buyers, companies utilize salespeople as a source of information. It wasn't that we were so great at cold calling or cold door knocking or overcoming objections like we really wanted to believe we were. It was mostly because we were the channel for information. So yeah, I'll meet with you and you come in and you give them information. So on the sales side or on the company side, we thought we get the meeting, and then during the meeting is where we would try to create connection and create trust and rapport and prove ourselves. But if your company is doing that now, what you're probably experiencing is you're just not getting invited into the meetings because it's reversed. You can't ask for a meeting and then build trust. You actually have to build trust and then get a meeting. And that's why this type of content is so important, because without trust, you're just not getting nearly as many meetings as when you use the content to build trust. So coming from the leader, and people start to trust the leader because of their type of content, there's kind of a trickle down throughout the company that the whole company feels trustworthy and people are willing to spend time and talk, and it helps sales get more calls. It helps, customer success have higher retention. It helps HR interview more people. It helps retain team members, all of that type of stuff. So I'm going to talk a little bit about this resonance to revenue framework that we've been building. It's 3 steps. It's voice, and they're all V's. Make it easy, V's. Voice, visibility, and velocity. Voice is the type of content that we're creating, this emotionally resonant content. Visibility is about consistency and where we're using that content. This isn't, by the way, I'm not a LinkedIn guy. I'm a let's go grow business guy, which means this type of content needs to be used in email. It needs to be used in blog articles, and be used in ads, it used in social. It could be used in conversations and face-to-face, and used in trade shows. It could be used in direct mail. But this emotionally resonant type of content is the key. It's got to have the right voice to it. The voice is the style of the content. And then you have the visibility. How are we using it in different places? And then the third one is the velocity. And what that implies is the more we start using it out there, whether it's a show, it's a podcast, it's our executives doing videos and sharing their type of content. It's written, it's LinkedIn newsletters, it's email newsletters, it's blog articles. But as we're taking this risk and we're sharing content of letting people get to know who we are, not just what we do, then the velocity comes in of more people say, I feel like I know you guys. I want to have this call. Or even the inbound work of people going, wow, I keep seeing these guys. They seem like they're good people. Let's reach out to them. I've had, these are good stories, and I know a lot of you had, but I can just speak from my own of when someone reaches out on LinkedIn or an email, and they say, hey, I've been watching your show for a while, and I think you can help us. Can we talk? Right? That's the velocity, because the voice and the visibility has been put into a system. So this system creates a bit of a reputation flywheel. If the voice, I mean, I think a lot of it are like, yeah, we have visibility and we don't have velocity. And I'd say check the voice. If your content isn't emotionally resonating, if it's not making them feel something, you're just telling them something, then it's going to get highly ignored, because there's so many people out there telling everybody about themselves. So that's the flywheel. That's the 3 V's: voice, visibility, and velocity. So the big shift that's happening is trust. The big shift is trust. And I was just saying this, we used to call, I built my biggest company I built with the call center, and we cold called, thousands of people every day. And it worked. It worked really well. And I love a call center. It's so easy. I mean, you call people and they answer, and you tell them your pitch. But the challenge is that, people aren't answering their phones, and they're not responding to the voicemail because they don't care. So they're not responding. They're not returning calls. And our call centers are really, really expensive. And if they're not producing sufficient fruit, then they're just a loss. They're an expense, not an investment. So the big shift is that we need to have trust before we get the meetings. If you don't take anything else from today, I think that's it. We live in an era now that if we don't trust people, we're not going to meet with them. And think about it for you. How often do you meet with somebody just because they asked you to meet? It's usually, you know about them, or somebody's referred you to them, or somebody else has talked to them, or you've seen them. And it's the same with our buyers. If they don't see us and have some sort of trust, an emotional connection, it's really easy for them just to say no and move on and not have meetings. So this is the big shift. It's content for connection, not content for awareness. It's content for connection. And look, here's my challenge. Here's my encouragement, I guess. None of us are selling services that are that unique. We have to demonstrate to our buyers who we are before they're going to care what we do. We have this expression, right? People don't care what you know until they know that you care. Right? What does that mean? It's about trust. It's about emotional resonance. And this is something we've been saying for years. It's just, in sales, we used to be able to get the meeting, and then in the meeting, we would work hard to build trust and credibility. And because there's so many voices out there, we have to build trust and credibility before we get in the meeting in order to get the meeting. And just like always, and before and now and all the times, we built trust through emotional connection. It's just, for most of us, we did that face to face. We did it once we got in the room, or we did it in the booth, or we took people to a restaurant after the trade show, and we were creating that emotional connection in different locations. So this is the big push. We are in a trust era, because trust is at an all-time low for salespeople. So we're in this trust era, meaning our content is for connection and trust, not for awareness. Because if we're creating content for awareness, it's just going to be ignored. So we're getting back to this human, one-to-one, face-to-face, human connection era. And I'm so excited. I love it. I think that's, you can't take our humanity away. I believe AI is going to do some really, really cool stuff, but I also believe that AI is going to lead a lot of us back to human connection. I was talking to somebody the other day, and I feel very strongly about this as well. And they said, when I'm reading something or I get something and I notice that it's AI written, I feel offended. Like I feel like you kind of threw in the towel, you kind of phoned in the effort and just let AI create the content. But you want to use my time to read your AI generated content. I'm offended. And I think if a lot of us think about it, we all kind of feel that way. Like, why should I waste my time reading content that your AI bot wrote? You didn't even bother taking the time to write it. But you want me to take my time to read it. So content isn't just a touch point anymore. It's a trust engine. It's not just a growth engine, it's a trust engine. And the big question is, does your network, does your market, do they feel something from your content other than boredom or annoyance because there's another piece of content that they need to get out of their way? Guys, I think we're in this stage, and it's going to happen quickly because everything moves so quickly now. Your content has to emotionally resonate. And if it doesn't, it's going to be ignored. That's the whole point of today. And how you create emotional resonance with your content is to share what you've lived and learned and what you're living and what you're learning, and be that transparent. Share who you really, really, really are. What do you think? What are you observing? What are you feeling? What are you experiencing? Versus, let me tell you about the 5 reasons why our product is better than competitor A's. That's really it. That's what I wanted to talk about today. So if you have questions on it or you want to talk about it, I mean, you can DM me. You can throw in the comments. I've got a brief that's educating people on this. Like I said, I've spent the last couple of months really diving into this to figure out like what the heck is coming on, what's coming in this next season. And this is it. And I know also, I want to say it's going to be hard, especially for older leaders. This is a new muscle. It's not just, social media. This is content like conversations you have in a small circle with friends that you're doing in public. If we're creating content like we're on the podium in front of 500 people, it's safe, it's polished. That kind of content is being ignored. But it's when we publicly and consistently share the content that we would have in a small circle with friends, that's the content that stands out. And that's the content that's getting engaged. And that's the content that's growing your reputation, making more people know you. And I want to end today with this story. James Gilman, a friend of mine, a client of ours, started doing a show and started creating more content on LinkedIn and was getting a little bit frustrated. It was like, what's going on? Like, this isn't working like I had hoped. And on a Sunday morning, he texted me and he said, I think his text said, "Dude, I get it." And of course, I respond back and said, "What do you get?" And he had gone to his high school reunion the night before. And he said that most people he encountered at the high school reunion were like, "Dude, I love your content. I love everything you're doing on LinkedIn. You're killing it on LinkedIn," and giving him high fives and everything. And he said, "I have never seen any of them comment or like my content. I didn't know they were out there paying attention to my content." But he said, "I couldn't go 10 steps at my high school reunion without somebody coming up and commenting and congratulating me and encouraging me on my content." That is an example of creating emotionally emotional resonant content, or content that creates emotional resonance. And that's what we all need to be doing as we move into the second half of 2025. Can't believe it's the second half of 2025. My gosh, it should be like the first week of February. So, hey, thank you, everybody. If this has blessed you, is this has taught you something, encouraged you, I would appreciate knowing. If you're on the podcast, I'd appreciate reviews or sharing it with people that you know. If you're on LinkedIn and YouTube, and give me a comment. Let me know how this is. Let me know your questions. Let me know how this is resonating. Let me know if this stuff makes sense. Because I believe this is what we need to be talking about for the rest of the year. This is what we need to be doing. We need to be learning these new muscles of creating different type of content if we want to be successful. It's scary. All right, everybody. Thank you so much. Have a great rest of your week. Be blessed. And I'll see you next time on a Revenue Through Reputation show. Next week, I have Scott. Scott Leese is going to be with me next week. That's going to be a great. You want to talk about somebody who does this well and exemplifies this with this content? It's Scott. You'll see me with him next week, and we'll join you right here next Tuesday at 11 a.m. Eastern. All right, everybody. Thanks so much. Have a great